radio is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
I personally love the fact that the media are grasping for any teeny tiny straw that they can find to try to minimize what he's already accomplished in the economy, a 25% increase in the stock market, a decrease in the trade deficit, consumer confidence at an all-time high. The American people see the actual, this crazy idea that America is being put first in trade negotiations and trade policy. And so the detractors, the never-Trumpers, the tear-down Trump media, they have to, it's like a sickness that they have. They have to look for the negative in any leak. They don't look at the motivations for leaks. It's Donald Trump now is going to take us to the brink of nuclear war. I was howling laughing. I was watching this MSNBC crowd today. And it's all the same people who used to hang out with Trump. They used to hang out with Trump before the experts and the elites began to tear him down. But now Trump doesn't return their calls. And that has made them very unhappy. Joe Scarborough has an anger issue, I think. He has an anger issue. He seems very angry all the time.
He hasn't smiled
never
in
smiling.
years.
It's an angry demeanor that he has. And so just to set the table here so everybody understands what I'm talking about. It seems that somebody in a meeting with the President of the United States, and apparently, according to the NBC report, a very small group of people met with the President last summer in apparently July. And the President was clearly doing fact gathering. Like, well, tell me, how was our nuclear arsenal? Like, what if this report is in any way correct? So I can imagine the President, who, of course, is not a military expert. That's why he has all the, quote, experts to tell him, what time it is on this stuff. He's asking questions, and you see the North Korea situation bubbling. We see that North Korea could have a nuclear weapon that could hit mainland United States. So what Donald Trump is probably saying is, now tell me, why couldn't we take out their arsenal first? And is it beyond the realm of understanding that we, America, would be forced to launch a nuclear first strike in North Korea or some type of strike? The fact that he's asking questions, to me, is actually a good thing. He has all these people who are experts, many of them who didn't see the rise of China. They didn't see the problem, frankly, with the Iranian deal. Many of these people did not see the surge in Iraq as something that might keep us there for another 10 years. They didn't see the problem with increasing more troops in Afghanistan. We've already lost thousands of people there. So all these experts are in the room. Rex Tillerson just, came out of Texas running Exxon, and he's sitting there in a room. And apparently, according to this report, Tillerson, after this meeting, said to someone else, well, this guy's a moron. That's what started us down this road with the Tillerson people having to say, oh, no, he never said that, and then the back and forth and the tension with Tillerson. But this is all being done, just so you know why this is being done. This is all being done to burnish the credentials, again, and the reputation of the old guard, the old foreign policy establishment that has failed the people, that has failed to predict the militaristic rise of China, the economic rise of China, has failed to understand how important it was in the Middle East to keep our allies at hand, even if they weren't, Horatio Alger winners. I mean, Mubarak, etc. We had them with their hands on the lids of these bubbling pots. And now those the lids are blown off, and we have a mass exodus of people out of the Middle East. And we still have a problem with Iran. We obviously have the rise of Islamism across the Middle East. We have 6,930 people, Americans, good American men and women, dead in Iraq and Afghanistan. So these experts who come in and lecture us about how the right way to do things, excuse me if I'm not all impressed by the experts. Not to say there aren't some smart people who have some really good ideas, but the experts they don't like having the mirror held up to them. Trump's just asking questions, I think, that probably a lot of American people would ask. He's not a foreign policy elite. No, he's not. Yeah, does he have a lot to learn? Absolutely. Could he learn more and read more? I'm sure that's the case. But remember why we got to this point. He was not the president over the last 15 years, 16 years, when we had the North Korean problem simmering. Really going back to 1990, going back to really 1999, 1998, with Madeleine Albright clinking champagne glasses with Kim Jong-un. We've had this problem for a long time with North Korea. Trump walks into the White House and says, "Wow, how is it? How did this happen? What? And why are we pulling back on our nuclear capability when it looks like other countries might not have such a warm and fuzzy feeling about us?"
The ignorance of this administration, they are ignorant of history, they are contemptuous of history, and they are contemptuous of those of us who actually read history books to get a better understanding of history.
They said that Ronald Reagan was Ronnie Reagan. We're going to pull some of those sound bites about what they said about the president's lack of foreign policy acumen, that he was saber-rattling with the Soviet Union.
A dunce.
A dummy who watched soap operas during the day. Oh, sorry, he had dementia, too. The attacks on Reagan's understanding of foreign policy from the Kissinger wing of the Republican Party to all of those who believed that we could placate the Soviet Union, we could deal with the Soviet Union. This military buildup was going to do nothing but kick the hornet's nest. We were going to prolong our adversarial relationship with the Soviet Union. We had to understand that the world was changing, that we were just going to have to live with the nuclear threat in the Soviet Union. We could live with it. We could manage that threat. And Ronald Reagan said, "I don't think so. We got to get this economy going. We have to have a strong and vibrant U.S. Prosperity that will give our people confidence in our system again. And at the same time, we have to have peace through strength, that we have a military buildup in this country that is so strong that nobody is going to be able to question us. Nobody is going to be able to take us on." So for all the criticisms of the Trump questioning and the Trump approach, I have to say, tell me what you've done for us lately. How exactly have you kept the world safer from the threats that we face? So this report in NBC came out, and this reporter, she was talking about, this is what Trump is about, and one of the funniest things is that the obsession with this, of course, is to help Rex Tillerson and that wing of the Republican Party, the Corker, Tillerson. And by the way, we're going to have Marsha Blackburn on in just a few moments here on the Laura Ingraham Show. She's had this tussle with Twitter, and she's going to run for that Corker seat. So she's a fascinating character to talk to. And the Billionaire at the Barricades tour continues tomorrow night in Philadelphia. We're going to have a phenomenal Q&A with Chris Stiegel, who's one of the top hosts of WPHT in Philly. We're going to talk to Chris, sign a lot of books. Things almost sold out. I guess we have a few seats left, not many. So I want to see as many of you as possible. We're heading on to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We're going to be at Liberty University. They're going to have their convocation, and thousands of people are going to be there Friday. We're going to do our show from Liberty University. And then on Saturday, I'll be speaking at the Values Voter Summit in Washington. And we're going to have a fantastic time in D.C. You can get your tickets all on lauraingraham.com. And I help you understand these mini controversies of the day. What's really at play here? This is a battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. The old guard will not go quietly into that good night. They want to keep their hands on the tiller here. They want to run the show. They want to be in charge. There's billions of dollars of money riding on this. They want to go back to the old trade regime. They want the old defense establishment to be up and running and humming. And they don't like this populism thing. The people don't know what they're doing. The establishment has to be in charge. So I put this frame around the rise of Trump, the election of Trump. And it helps you see this in the historical context. But going back to Reagan, even before Reagan, to Nixon. And also my personal insights along the way, from working at the White House to clerking for Justice Thomas and helping Dave Bratt beat Eric Cantor, and kind of weaving myself in and out of the Trump campaign in 2016 and things that I've never talked about before on the radio.
You did have a front row seat to so much of this history.
Advising Mitt Romney in 2012, trying to get him to get the populist
spirit
push in his campaign. He did some of it, to his credit.
Not enough.
On immigration, he was pretty good, and on China, he was really good.
That's true.
But he made the deplorables mistake with 47% and wouldn't take it all the way. Trump comes along. He's like, I'll carry this football. Give it to me. And he took it down the field. And so Billionaire at the Barricades. I will be on Martha McCallum's show tonight on the Fox News Channel. We'll be joining Michael Savage today on the radio. I cannot wait for that. And we have a lot of other shows in between. So just stay with us on lauraingraham.com. You'll be able to follow us on the tour. And then, of course, the Fox show begins on October 30th. So you're going to want to tune into the Ingraham Angle then. So this was this New York Times reporter. And she, what's her name, James? Carol Lee? Yeah, so the New York Times got this NBC reporter, and they wrote this. They did this piece on the meeting in July, and again, it's trying to get you all scared. Run down to your bomb shelter somewhere because Donald Trump is a real threat. Let's listen.
You know, that wasn't necessarily, when you talk to people, it was more that, he just wanted more of everything. Let's just be the biggest and the best. And it wasn't necessarily drawing that link that then we'll then use all these weapons. But it just, that's how he thinks. He thinks in these dimensions of, well, let's be the biggest and let's be the best and let's have the most and let's outgun everybody. And not necessarily to use it per se, but just to show that the U.S. has all of this strength.
Can you imagine a president wanting the United States to be the biggest and the best? She doesn't realize that she just revealed the fault line in American politics today. Those who believe America is the most exceptional country in the face of the planet, that we are the best, we should be the biggest in steel, in manufacturing, in IT, in software engineering, in heavy manufacturing of equipment, in biotech. We should be the biggest and the best. You see, because I want a president who thinks America should be third, fourth, or fifth. But the payoff on this never was there. So they were trying to get everyone to think Donald Trump, he was at this meeting, and he wanted to figure out how to use nuclear weapons, and he was itching it, and he has an itchy trigger finger, and he wants the football, the nuclear football, to be the case to be opened up and to launch. Give me those launch codes. Melania, where are the launch codes? I want those launch codes. I need those codes. But in the end, she says, well, that really wasn't what he just wanted to know how much we had and if we could have more. See, I like that. I like the fact that Trump's like, why the hell do we have to do it this way? Why can't we have a bigger capability? And that brings us to our
butt monkey.
I will say that there are officials who said that no one took the president literally, that he was demanding that the U.S. expand its arsenal. But it was more that the lack of an understanding of why that wasn't not just not feasible, but also just unnecessary.
Oh, that's a real articulate reporter from NBC News. Try to diagram that sentence. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Raymond Arroyo is with me. We have a lot in store for you. Marsha Blackburn's going to join us. We have a really fascinating report from the border. What's going on now that Trump has been president for going on 10 months, what's happened on the immigration front, and how he has boxed the Democrats in and held up a mirror to their claims that they are for enforcement of our laws. We just need to be more compassionate to the dreamers. Jessica Vaughn will join us and a lot more on your healthy radio addiction. Billionaire at the Barricades. We all want gorgeous model-like hair, and I'm going to tell you how to get it. Ovation Cell Therapy will help get your hair back into condition. Thicker, stronger, healthier-looking hair is yours if you make the right hair care decisions with Ovation. Did you know that Ovation Cell Therapy is clinically proven to repair over 75% of split ends and also reduce breakage after just one use? Ovation Cell Therapy will help get your hair back into condition, and it's risk-free with a 365-day, 100% money-back guarantee. No one does that except Ovation because it's that good. So what are you waiting for? Your new hair awaits. Join the Ovation Nation as I did long ago. All you have to do is go to ovationhair.com. Remember, select Laura Ingraham in the survey at checkout for a special new customer discount and a free shipping offer for a limited time. Get details at ovationhair.com and select Laura Ingraham in the checkout for your new customer discount. Hurry, the free shipping offer ends.
Why was everyone in Washington so confused by this?
Well, they were stunned. Like, well, this guy won because of the Russians or Comey or Hillary's a bad candidate. What they didn't understand is that he won actually because of the issues. He was a little brash and sometimes he's kind of a wrecking ball, but the people were so sick of being kicked to the curb on issues of trade, deindustrialization in the Midwest, open borders, constant military intervention at the hands of Republican presidents, that they're like, look, he's our bully. We need someone to bully. The Billionaire at the Barricades tour across the country. All the information on lauraingraham.com. Book is doing pretty well so far. I was on with O'Reilly yesterday on his No Spin podcast. Raymond came with. And
Ingraham, got a pretty good book here, huh? Tell us about it.
Yeah, he's like, your dopey publicist didn't even send it to me. The poor publicist is sitting there.
Sitting right there.
The publicist is sitting right there. Thanks, O'Reilly. A charm school graduate.
You're getting some very nice reviews on Amazon.
Really? Can you read one?
I'll read you a little. I'll read you the end. There's a very long one where she really explicates, lays out the whole book. At the very end, she says, as you can probably tell from these experts, the book is written with a lot of heart. Laura Ingraham weaves in her own rich experience into the story. If you're a conservative populist who voted for Trump, she's telling your story too. If you're a person who didn't vote for Trump, this book will help you understand the hearts and the minds of those who did.
Raymond, thanks for writing that review.
I did. I've worked all night on
nice?
that. No, I didn't.
Nice
that actually came from an Alan Sewell. I don't know who Alan is, but he's very nice, long review. It's like a book itself.
Yeah, we could publish that on LifeSet.
Yeah, maybe.
On LifeSet, by the way, we have a great review of the book. That's up there. But Obama Justice Department is favored immigrants over U.S. citizens. A new expose on that. And the First Amendment means the NFL player's speech is protected, according to a, speaking of dope, CNN legal analyst who obviously doesn't know what the Constitution is all about. It's about the government not being able to circumscribe speech, fool. What an idiot. All right, up next, Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Why won't she criticize Bob Corker? I love the fall weather and the change of seasons, but just because you love the leaves and the colors of the leaves doesn't mean your hair has to look like the leaves. That means dry and brittle. Forget that. You don't want that. Cell Therapy by Ovation will rejuvenate your hair, making it thicker, stronger, and so much healthier looking. Cell Therapy by Ovation, what it does is it resolves problems with the split ends, the brittle hair, the flat, fine hair, even the out-of-control curls that sometimes bother folks. I love curls, but some people want their curls to be smooth. Well, I know that because, look, I've been there with hair, this problem hair, and you get, there's all these gifts you get for free. Like, they're giving this stuff away. But you got to call them, 800-480-5206. That's 800-480-5206. And get all these gifts free for a limited time. You order now. Get a surprise luxury gift on top of all this other stuff, also free. Remember, 800-480-5206. Joining us now on the Laura Ingraham Show is Marsha Blackburn, an old friend of the program, a young old friend of the program, Congresswoman from the great state of Tennessee. And she now is running for Bob Corker's Senate seat. Well, officially running, but she's going to run. And she's launching her Senate bid. And she found herself in the middle of the left's censorious push to clamp down against conservative speech the other day when Twitter decided to remove her post where she referred to Planned Parenthood's disgusting trying to sell baby body parts. Now Twitter has reversed its decision to do that, which is a huge victory for her, and already she's racking up the victories. Congresswoman Blackburn, how are you? Good to talk to you.
It is so good to talk to you, Laura, and yes, I said standing down Twitter was my first Senate conservative victory, so there you go.
Well, Congresswoman, I love how the left refuses to acknowledge the reality of the devastation that abortion has perpetrated on humanity. They don't want to, because to force them to confront what a partial birth abortion is to confront the barbarity of the procedure, is to confront their own facilitation of this heinous crime of abortion. And so they want to demonize the people who actually tell the truth about it. So they hoped were going to be this one of these individuals who were cowed in the corner and going, okay, I won't do it again, Twitter. Please leave me alone. And instead, what did you do? Instead, you said, no way. I'm going to keep speaking the truth.
Well, that's right. I doubled down on being pro-life. They doubled down on the censorship, and I doubled down on being pro-life. I said, fine. I will not alter my statement. They wanted me to take out the line about I was 100% pro-life, and I had chaired the select panel, and we ended the sale of baby body parts. All of which is true. It was congressional work, a congressional investigative committee. I did 15 criminal referrals against these abortion clinics and these entities that were selling fetal body parts. And we put a stop to this. And Laura, Twitter found that so offensive that what they did was to say, we will censor it, we will take it down. And for 36 hours, they did not allow us to boost that post. They did not block us from Twitter, but they didn't allow us to put money behind that ad and to promote my candidacy on Twitter. So, yes. And you know the thing, Laura, and you remember this. You remember in 2013 during the Gosnell trials when the mainstream media blocked those the coverage of the Gosnell trials and the Planned Parenthood lobbying in Florida on the infanticide issue. And Steve Scalise and I wrote a letter at that point to bring that to light and to push for coverage on what was happening with Gosnell, because you had babies and women that had lost their life, and that is murder. And what we did was to call them out. So this is a continuation of the liberal elite thinking they can compromise pro-life speech, they can compromise, they can stand us down. And I just said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to change. Twitter is an important outlet. There is nothing offensive. They said it was inflammatory and offensive. Yeah. It is not. I think it is offensive that babies lose their lives. And my message is pro-life, pro-woman, pro-baby.
We're talking to Marsha Blackburn here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Congresswoman Blackburn, I just wrote a book called Billionaire at the Barricades, The Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump. And I bring it up not to promote it. It's doing pretty well. But I'm bringing it up because what I believe is happening right now is that I think more than at any other time since probably 1976, maybe 1980, there is a battle going on within the Republican Party for its heart and soul. There's the old Bush Guard Republicans who were much more hospitable to things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Common Core, immigration amnesty, etc. And then there's the more populist Trump conservatives who believe that America first should be the policy. We should have trade that works for the average person. Immigration reform could only be preceded by true enforcement of our immigration laws. Obviously, everything he's doing on NAFTA and the WTO. Where do you fall in that divide?
I am one of those that, as I say, I am a hardcore card-carrying Tennessee conservative, and I have been fighting against the establishment all of my political life. And if you're with me in my district in Tennessee, like at the Cattlemen's annual meeting Monday night down in Murray County, Laura, the first question, what are you going to do about tax reform? Why won't the Senate start acting like adults and get something done? What is wrong with the U.S. Senate? Why won't they pass the Waters of the U.S. rollback that you passed in the House? Why won't they pass health care? The insurance cost is killing us. Why won't they do tax reform? Do they have enough guts to come? Do they have the courage to come to the table
They're sick
and
of
do
Congress.
tax reform?
I mean, they hate the Senate more than they hate the House, but they don't like the House either.
Sick.
Yeah, but they're sick of it. They're sick of it. So and again, I want my listeners to know where you stand on this divide. This is it. This is the divide. I work for President Reagan. Okay, I work for him. I clerked for Justice Thomas. I helped Eric Cantor get defeated by Dave Bratt. I was in the trenches on all this stuff with Romney, trying to help him on being more of a populist, and he ultimately couldn't do it. And then, of course, with the rise of Trump. But are you today calling yourself a conservative populist, where you're more for the Trump way of the Trump agenda, or are you closer to the Mitch McConnell, Bob Corker wing of the party?
I am standing with the president. I stand with President Trump on getting this agenda through, and that is where I am. I think he's exactly right. People are so sick of the swamp. They want Congress to get something done. And people say, well, you know, that populist isn't Republican. And I say, you're absolutely wrong about that. It is totally Republican, because these are hard-working men and women, and they have had it with elitism, and they have had it with people that do not do their job, and they have had it with their taxpayer dollars being wasted. And Laura, they look at this $20 trillion worth of debt, and many of them stand with me. They were standing with me when I fought back the state income tax. We did a populist uprising in Tennessee. This was back in 2000, 2001, 2002. We fought back that state income tax, and they have come to me now and they've said, Marcia, you need to go help do the same thing in the Senate and stand down some of this stuff that is going on and stand up for the president. And Laura, we have got to get his agenda through. We have to have.
We're talking to Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn here on the Laura Ingraham Show. You just heard her. She's for the Trump agenda, pushing it through. She's a conservative populist, which leads me to what the man you hope to replace has said recently to the New York Times. He decided to go to the publication that has its heart and mind set on removing Trump from office. He decides to go there and to criticize the President of the United States. Let's listen.
I do worry that he's sometimes I feel like he's on a reality show of some kind, you know, when he's talking about these big foreign policy issues, and he doesn't realize that we could be heading towards World War III with the kind of comments that he's making.
Your reaction to what Bob Corker said about this president, one of the most inflammatory criticisms I've heard from him, or heard from anybody, Democrat or Republican, that the President of the United States could be taking us toward World War III. Your reaction?
Laura, I've got to tell you, we have to stand. People know that the Senate is totally dysfunctional, and they know that we have to stand with the president in order to get this agenda done. People are sick of the pettiness. They want to see the House and the Senate work with this president to get things across the finish line and signed into law. One of my constituents called me last night, and they're so good. They were on a tear. They were on a tear. And they said, look, these senators sound like kids playing in the sandbox, and they get mad, and then they say, I'm going to take all my toys and I'm going to go home. And the American people expect better than this. They sent a message when they elected Donald Trump, and they said, we want you to get rid of Obamacare. We want you to give us some tax relief. We want you to build a wall.
You're right. Marcia, you're completely right about all of this. My question to you is, if you want to win this seat, if you want to win this seat and you want to take this agenda over the finish line, you have to be willing to call out those who are hurting this administration and hurting this president. Even if he's a friend of yours, we got to have straight talk to our friends too. What do you say to Bob Corker after going to the enemy publication which has turned against this administration on every issue? He runs there to unload. What do you say to him?
I say it is time for us to set aside personal differences. It is time for everyone, all these Republicans in the Senate and the House, to look at the president and say, Mr. President, you were elected to fulfill promises and to push this agenda, and it is imperative that we stand together with you and we get this job done. The American people are hurting. They are hurting a lot. Some of them tell me they are hanging on by a thread.
He says that this is all. He said no, but Marcia, he said, Congresswoman, he says that this is all the that everyone's talking about on Capitol Hill. All the senators agree with him. Congress is worried that this guy's going to take us to nuclear war, and he's just out of his depth. He can't do this job.
Laura,
that's what he says.
I'm going to tell you, you know my district. And if you were with me out in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District and going with me to sporting events with children and to church and to the Cattlemen's Association and the Farm Bureau, you would hear people say, stop it. We elected a president, Senate, get to work.
Who's more popular, Congresswoman? Let's say if Donald Trump was running against Bob Corker for a primary, presidential primary in Tennessee today, who would win, Trump or Corker?
Donald Trump would win. He has an 82% favorable rating in my district.
Wow, 82%. Oh my goodness, Joe Scarborough, one of your good friends. I'm sure he's going to be really fair to you in the coming months. Joe Scarborough said this today about the Corker and all these leaks. Let's listen.
Now I think it's up for Congress to figure out a way to actually slow down the process in any way possible to put checks on this man's ability to launch a nuclear war that could end up destroying a good part of this earth.
So that's what Bob Corker started. That's what he started. Now the meme is Trump's going to take us to nuclear war, World War III, started by Bob Corker with the interview to the New York Times.
Well, nobody wants a nuclear war. What we want is a peaceful existence. And the first job that the president has to do is to provide for the peace, to fight our enemies, foreign and domestic. And what we as Congress have to do is work with them. Nothing is going to be achieved if Congress is fighting one another and fighting the president. Laura, that is no way to advance a conservative agenda. And people feel like they have entrusted us to get some things done, to make this nation safe, to provide for our men and women in uniform, and to address health care, to address tax reform. And they are sitting there waiting for us to deliver, and time's a wasting, as we say. Well, it is time for people to get there and do it.
Well, I think one of the really valuable things about Donald Trump, and we're almost out of time, Congresswoman, one of the really valuable things about him is that he's held up a mirror to an establishment that has failed the people. They couldn't pass Obamacare, still haven't done tax reform, have a presidency, House and Senate in Republican hands, and they blaming him? They're the experts, and they're blaming him for North Korea? But he's held up a mirror to all that. And I think it makes people very uncomfortable, Congresswoman. And it makes Bob Corker uncomfortable. It makes Mitch McConnell uncomfortable. They don't like the truth-telling. They want to keep us all behind closed doors, and the dumb people out there are just going to turn out and vote for him every 2 or 4 or 6 years. I'm sick of it. And I think the people are sick of it. They want someone like you to be a truth-teller, too, and keep it up.
Well, we will. And see, Congress has gotten us into this mess. And now that Donald Trump is pulling back some of the layers and people are beginning to say, well, it's not my fault, it's not that fault. But what we have to do is say, America deserves better than this. Freedom and freedom's cause deserves our very best effort. And it's going to take standing up to the swamp. It is going to take standing up to the liberal media, and it's going to take more victories.
Marsha Blackburn, it is always so great to talk to you. We wish you the very best. We'll be watching this race very closely. Who knows, I might be coming down with you to one of those cattlemen events and hanging out with you for a time. Only if you're buying the margaritas, Congresswoman. That's the only way you're getting me down there. It's great to talk to you. Keep it up, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon. We really appreciate it. Congrats on beating Twitter on the First Amendment and free expression. We're going to take a break. First of all, what we need is to remind everybody that 2 weeks ago, the experts, the elites, the smart people all said that Donald Trump made a big mistake weighing into this on this debate about the national anthem. How could Donald Trump have done this? He's fanning the flames of racism and racial divide in the country. And the NFL sticks their chest out and say, we stand with the players, we stand with their right to stand up. This reminds me of so much of the criticism of Trump that happened on the campaign trail. They said that he used Twitter too much. They said that he was too obsessed with doing rallies. They said that he thought he mistook the size of his rallies for support for his policies, that there was no way he was going to win because he wasn't appealing to our better angels. He was dividing America. And all along what he was doing was he was exposing the fault lines, both in the culture and in politics, on the economy and foreign policy, that have been there for anyone to see for years and years. Really, since Reagan, we have not had a unified conservative movement. Reagan managed to pull everyone together because at the time the Soviets were the threat. We had the Christian conservatives working even with the libertarians and the defense hawks because we were together on the basics. On the basics, had to defeat the Soviet Union. That was the existential threat to American freedom and independence. Had to do that, and he was able to do that. But after Reagan left the scene, the family structure in the Republican Party started to really tear, and we managed to have George H.W. Bush in 1988. He shows his true establishment colors with raising taxes, and he couldn't get it done. So Bill Clinton comes in. He comes in as kind of a populist. He does the Sister Soldier moment. He weighed into the culture. He saw that worked for him in 1992 when he ran for president. George Bush comes along 8 years later. He's like, I'm a cowboy from Texas. I get you working class people. And, I'm going to have a humble foreign policy. We're not going to be rolling into all these countries. We need to preserve our economic power. And he was with the people on the culture wars. Bush was, yeah. He did the stem cell initiative right at the very start of the administration. He wasn't afraid to talk to raise and get into the issues that Christian conservatives cared about, that the working class people cared about.
Started that Office of Faith-Based Initiatives.
Thank you. And
Mexico City policy restored.
Pro-life, and he was there. He was there on those issues. And then Donald Trump comes along after 8 hellish years with Barack Obama, and he says, wait a second, we somehow got off of the more common man approach in politics. We do what we do for the betterment of the American understanding, the American people, the common man and woman who don't get 2,400 on their SATs, who maybe didn't go to Princeton or a lot of these schools, but who are the backbone of this society. They stand for the national anthem. They are patriots. They believe that our police and our military should not be demonized or under assault or ridiculed. That faith is important to the American tradition. Religious liberty matters. He stood with the Little Sisters of the Poor, as you saw with his new initiative that came out last week, expanding the number of organizations that are protected, their religious liberty protected by that contraceptive ruling for Obamacare. So he stood with the people more than these so-called lifetime Republicans have stood with the people. And so at that speech, kind of impromptu, he wasn't planned out. He's shooting from the hip on this NFL anthem, but he was having fun at that rally in Alabama, down there for Luther. And he was mad because he was led down the garden path on Luther Strange. He knew Luther Strange was going to lose. But he pledged to go down there. He was at that rally. And so he's with the people. He's in the moment. He said, these people don't stand for the national anthem. They should all be shown the door or whatever. He's talking like the people to the people. And he was right. The NFL found out real quick. Again, Trump holding up the mirror. He's kind of helping us decode what's really going on in the culture. These owners and this NFL commissioner, mostly the NFL commissioner, they thought that they could run roughshod over the people who pay for the tickets, people who put money in their pockets, and stand with the race hucksters who are getting these players all hot and bothered on race where they shouldn't be. And guess what? Oh, did they get a message from the ticket holders, from the fans?
Millions of dollars. Tickets,
they've lost
viewership.
Tens of millions of dollars. The sales of jerseys have gone down. The tickets not being sold. The NFL packages being canceled for cable and satellite. They're canceling those NFL packages.
DirecTV allowed people to back out with no penalty.
So the blowback, it's the same blowback that people should have felt on November, 8th, the election, 9th of last year. That was a blowback to the establishment. There's a sports establishment, an entertainment establishment. It's part of that same establishment. You think because they run the NFL, they're conservative? Even though most of the fans are? They're not conservative. These are the elites of the elite. They are the business elite, and they think that if they please the New York Times, it's a good day for them. The New York Times doesn't pay their bills. And so what do? They reverse their position, but they try to say it's not a reversal. Oh, no, well, we're just following the laws. You have to stand for the anthem. Well, that was always the rule. I mean, the rules. Those were always the rules of the NFL.
Right. But he was willing to look the other way for all these weeks, looking the other way. Now we get this memo.
Year.
Big memo.
Tell us what the memo says. Right
this memo is to the owners of the team saying, oh, this is a newsflash for you, Laura. We live in a country that can feel very divided. That's his opening line. And then later he says, we're very proud of our players and owners who have done hard work with the past year to listen, understand, and attempt to address the underlying issues within the communities of the players. But like many of our fans, the people who pay the tickets, like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. It's an important moment in our game. We want to honor our flag and our country. This sounds like a Trump tweet. Goodell's come a big turn. But that's because these owners felt the pinch from their players. They caved into the players because they didn't want to revolt on the team or a walkout.
Standing, swaying side by side.
Locking arms.
Jerry Jones kneel stands. Now Jerry Jones is back to the old Jerry Jones. Mm-hmm. Is that you stand or you're gone. You're benched, you're gone. You don't stand, you're benched.
And now you've got people coming out and speaking against Jerry Jones and others.
Oh, that paragon of talent and poise, the rapper Common.
It's an owner mentality, and it's an owner, like a slave owner mentality. Yeah. Like, to be honest, like, you gonna do what I say on this. Nobody's disrespecting the job. Nobody's like on the job doing disrespectful things. They just saying this is how I want to place my body doing this anthem. Then they should be able to do that because that's what this country is about.
He's a complete and total moron. Okay? These are the people who are creating the music for this generation, the quote music for this generation with the N-word. Let's look up some of Common's lyrics, Raymond. Look those up. I'm too exercised to do an internet search right now. So now they're slave owners, the owners of slave owners. All right, let's talk about what the rap industry has done to elevate dialogue in the black community. Shall we, Common? Let's have some common sense, shall we? Here's a common understanding, Common. What's your real name? Like Joe, Joe, his real name is like Cornelius Smith, and he calls himself Common. He can't even use his real name. What a fraud. I'm so sick of these people. By the way, he's echoing what the elite, the elite journos are saying, too, that these players should be able to express themselves anyway. Well, you can in your free time, but guess what? You work for a company, an association called the NFL. Just like when I work for anyone, if I work for Fox, if I give a speech, I sign a contract and I have to abide by what I agreed to in that contract. In the contract for NFL players is the NFL Players Handbook. It's the rule book for behavior. Can't put stickers on your helmet for sponsors. You can't even do a salute to the police.
Position of your body. What if I decide to, flip the bird to people who walk in the front door?
You decide to moon the audience, to moon the television audience. Can you do that?
Well, Harvey Weinstein might have given you your own reality show.
Weinstein, is it Weinstein or Steen?
I don't know. Harvey Weinstein.
Speaking of, we're going to talk to Harvey Levin. He's coming up from TMZ. He's going to be checking in with us about the growing scandal in Hollywood. It's the most obvious and unreported secret of Hollywood. From the stories of the casting couch in the 1930s and 40s, all the way up to the depraved state of Hollywood today. Both women and men are put in these situations where they have to do certain tasks. Let's just call them tasks to get ahead. Now, this happens in corporate America. Of course, it happened in the media culture. It happens in the media culture, too. We know that. Everybody knows that. There are certain people who will use positions of power to subjugate others, who will demand sexual favors in order for people to get ahead. And there are people who will do that, who will do those sexual favors, or who are too scared to speak out. But let me tell you, when you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it took a New York Times story for you to come out and be, quote, brave and talk about Harvey Levin when the Obamas and the Clintons have to be dragged to condemn their big donor friend, Harvey Weinstein? That tells you all you need to know about how much they care about women in the workplace. They don't care one whit about the workplace. They care about power and money and access to the elites. That's what it's always been about for them. And guess what? They're exposed to. 855-40-LAURA. By the way, Billionaire at the Barricades, I'm going to be in Philadelphia tomorrow night. We have a few tickets left, but not many. We sold a whole bunch yesterday because I was on Tucker and everything. So you're going to love it. We've already had so much fun on the tour, but we're just getting started. So Philadelphia tomorrow night. I'll be on Martha McCallum show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox News. I'll be with Michael Savage today. I'll have to hop off the radio for a few minutes to do an interview with my good friend Mike Gallagher. He's a phenomenal radio host. Love Mike. Can't wait to talk to him. And we have a lot more television and stops planned. It's all on lauraingraham.com. I want to see a lot of you in Myrtle Beach on Friday, late afternoon at the Barnes & Noble there. I'll be at the Values Voters Summit in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, late morning on Saturday. You can come hear me speak, get a signed copy of the book. It puts a frame around the rise of Trump so you understand why this happened and how this happened. From the Nixon silent majority to Reagan taking on the old GOP guard in 1976 and 1980 to George Bush promising a populist and more humble foreign policy in 2000, all the way to Donald Trump taking down Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush, how this all happened. I explain it with personal insights and stories I've never told before along the way. So you want to get this book. We want to make this book top of the list. So help me get there. All my listeners, I love you, and I work hard for you, and I'm asking you to spread the word. This will teach people who don't understand Trump how we can keep winning. It'll teach them how we can keep winning, and those who voted for Trump and feel like they're kind of, I'm not sure what he's doing. We explain a lot of it in this book, so get it, and you'll love it. You're going to laugh along the way as well. My friends, by the way, at Food for the Poor, I want to talk to you about what's happening with those who are truly the angels among us, who are helping those in need, who are desperately harmed by natural disaster, by ineffective government leadership. You know, we have ineffective government leadership. Imagine if you're down there in Haiti and you're just a mother and father trying to raise your family. You can't get ahead. Guess what? You all have done amazing work. And you helped me last year, feed, I think, about 3,800 children. 3,400, to be specific. 3,400 children in Guatemala, and it was because of you we were able to save them. This year, we're going to put our pro-life money where our mouth is. We're going to be pro-life from the womb through natural death, and we're going to help people in need this year through Food for the Poor. You can go to lauraingraham.com, look for that Food for the Poor banner. lauraingraham.com, click on, and just a $50 gift can provide food for a year and water for life for a suffering child. And this is 17 countries throughout our hemisphere. We need to help. We need to do our best and do our help. And we want 4,200 children this year to be saved with Food for the Poor. You can also call them at 844-868-4673. Okay, 844-868-4673. Food for the Poor. lauraingraham.com. You can click through there. Let's get it going. And I can't wait to report how many people we've saved by the end of this year. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. Harvey Levin's going to join us. Hypocrisy on display from the pornifiers in Hollywood. It's not about empowering women. It's about lining their own pockets. And the Obamas and the Clintons exposed along the way. Don't go away. You heard a player from the 49ers and then the rapper Common reacting to the NFL actually finally reading its own rule book. You stand for the national anthem, period. That's it. It's a private business, and you want to work for the NFL? You want to work for professional football? You agree. This is in your contract, my friend. And by the way, that rapper Common, I promised to tell you what he offers young African Americans in his music. Raymond Arroyo has called through some of these savory numbers.
We have to remember, Common was invited by President Obama and Michelle Obama to the White House for a Christmas carol party.
Isn't he a lovely individual?
Yeah, I'm sure.
So what's hurting African Americans more? The NFL saying it's to stand for the national anthem? Or some of this poison that they're putting in the minds of young kids.
Okay, this is just, I really can't even get it.
Okay,
I'll
give
read.
me
Rich man versus poor man. He says the white man didn't care, S-word, he didn't have to wear it. And then he goes on about every day the black man would ask for some spare change, but Adam the white man would stare strange. So the black man got fed up, because wasn't nobody feeding him, and took Red by his neck and started beating him. This is another wonderful song. The B word is yo. Lovely. Right up there
Rodgers
with
and Hammerstein.
Yes, right up there with DeLovely. The bitch is yo. Not quite sure. And I can't even get it. This is so filthy.
The N-word, the B-word, the H-word, everything.
The whole.
This is what the Obamas brought into the White House. Now that is elevating the dialogue for African Americans, making everyone feel good about themselves in the future.
These lyrics oppress.
These lyrics oppress young minds, pollute young minds, and foster and foment resentment and anger when people should be focusing on common sense and good values.
Raymond Arroyo sitting in for Laura Ingraham for a few moments, and we are joined by Harvey Levin. If anybody can speak to this, it's certainly Harvey, who's been watching the Hollywood scene for years. Of course, the founder of TMZ and host of the new Fox show, which is really great. I've been watching it on Sundays on the Fox News channel, Objectified. This Sunday, he'll have one of my favorites, Tyler Perry, on. Harvey Levin joins us. Harvey, thanks for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
First of all, what is this doing to the Hollywood community? It seems to have struck a nerve. People are coming forward, some we didn't expect to hear from. I'll get to some of those in a moment, but your reaction to what you're hearing on the ground?
Well, let me just say that this has been talked about for decades. So,
exactly.
The idea that everybody is pretending like, oh my God, I had no idea. Come on. I mean, look, I'm not in the movie community. Mm-hmm. I've heard these stories for forever. Not specific stories, but I'm sure some of these specific stories have been circulating. And, look, I mean, Seth MacFarlane in 2013 made a joke when he presented an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress that these women no longer had to basically be Harvey Weinstein's raw meat. I mean, literally said it at the Oscars, and there was kind of a gasp. But why do you think Seth MacFarlane said that? A year before, in 2012, Tina Fey made a crack. There was a joke that she wrote actually on 30 Rock about an actress who was propositioned by Weinstein 5 times, but only had sex with him twice. So I mean, they're literally doing these jokes on television in front of national audiences
for years.
And everybody's acting like, oh my God, this is a crazy news story.
Yeah, no, look, this was an open secret in Hollywood. I mean, look, I knew actors and directors who were telling me this stuff, and like you, I don't swim in these waters. But
now this does not, by the way, does not in any way justify what he did. But the point I'm trying to make is that, look, I mean, Sharon Waxman from The Wrap, she runs The Wrap. We used to be a New York Times reporter. Now, she is saying in 2004, she wrote an article about Harvey Weinstein procuring women through some guy that she knew who was on the payroll of the company. And she says Weinstein actually went to the New York Times and they got the article gutted. And the insinuation is, he's a very liberal guy who's well-connected, very powerful, supports the causes that, the New York Times supports. So that was the insinuation for sure. And again, I'm not going to say that's true or false, but she did write the article and says that it was absolutely gutted. So,
well, no, that's the question, Harvey. It's the cover-up that's ensued, and these media companies, the New York Times, NBC, may have been complicit.
Well,
they knew.
Let's just say the Weinstein Company. Don't forget the Weinstein Company. How is it that there were settlements and all this other stuff? And how is it that nobody there had an inkling? Because I know people who worked there over the years, and they, obliquely talked about things like this. So I don't know. It's just hard to fathom that everybody was in the dark. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I want to play this for you. This is Ronan Farrow, previously of NBC News. He wrote a blockbuster piece on this Harvey Weinstein thing at the New Yorker. Here's what he told Rachel Maddow last night. Listen.
Why did you end up reporting this story for the New Yorker and not for NBC News?
Look, you would have to ask NBC and NBC executives about the details of that story. I'm not going to comment on any news organization's story that they, did or didn't run. I will say that over many years, Many news organizations have circled this story and faced a great deal of pressure in doing so. And there are now reports emerging publicly about the kinds of pressure that news organizations face in this, and that is real.
He claims that
he
was threatened with a lawsuit, and there was pressure upstairs. They spiked the story. He went to the New Yorker. Why do you think they were so willing to spike this story?
Well, look, first of all, I don't know how much there can be legitimate reasons for killing a story. That if even if somebody makes a claim, that doesn't mean that the news operation is bulletproof. That they can still be sued for defamation. And, Harvey Weinstein, I think, would do something like that. And I don't know how buttoned up all of this stuff was early on. So I don't think you can automatically assume that a news organization that refused to run the story did so out of cowardice, did so out of fear because he's so powerful, did so because he's so liberal. I don't think you can necessarily draw those conclusions.
Well, Farrow said his story was ironclad. He walked into the New Yorker. They said, "We love this story. We get it." It totally. He had 8 people on camera, Harvey. I mean, it wasn't like
No. I'm not saying. Look, all I'm saying is I don't know what the state of the story was when he pitched it. It sounds to me like he's saying it was solid, and when you read his story, it seems very buttoned up, for sure. And he has this police tape. So, look, I can't jump into their heads. I think what Sharon Waxman said happened back in 2004 is pretty interesting.
Well, and I want to play another bite for you because now men are coming forward who claim they were groped by Hollywood executives, were propositioned. This is Rob Schneider. Listen to this.
I was in a hotel room and I was gonna, it was weird. I didn't think it was gonna be a weird situation, but it was a famous director just before I was really famous. And the next thing I know, I'm in a room with this guy. He's in a chair, and comes out in a bathrobe and sits in this chair. And the next thing you know, he's asking me to crawl on the ground. And this is a guy. He's he's passed away now, so I don't think it's fair I should say his name. He was a pig. It was momentarily traumatized. But I was thinking about this. This happened to me.
How pervasive do you think this is, Harvey?
Well. You know what they're talking about, right? This is not a new thing. You know the 2 words that have been described this way for decades, right?
Which are they?
Casting couch.
Right, exactly.
I mean, this is, people have talked about casting couches since the 40s or 30s. So it's almost 100 years old.
Right, it's nothing new here.
No, I mean, it doesn't, again, it does not excuse it, doesn't make it right, it's wrong. But, this is not a newly discovered thing that, powerful people, have crossed the line and done stuff like that.
Abuse their power, yeah.
And again, I'm not diminishing what Rob Snyder's saying. What I'm saying is this is not this new phenomenon where all of a sudden it's, oh my God, look what's happening. There have been stories about casting couches for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah, well, it goes on, but the male component of it, and again, Corey Feldman and others talking about
it's
children.
no different. I mean, I don't know why you say the male component. It's the same principle.
Well, it is, but it's something that's not talked about as much as I think women being propositioned by male producers and directors. We hear about that more often.
People will cross the line, and if it's a powerful male executive who is into males, then the principle is exactly the same. If they cross the line. That doesn't mean, look, it's just as wrong. It doesn't matter, straight, gay, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So, I mean, I don't see why there would be any distinction. Yeah.
I agree. It's a violation of people's personhood. And what do you make of the, I keep hearing that this is sort of a Hollywood confessional that we've gotten, that this is broken open, if you will. The consciences of a lot of people, and they're looking anew at this. Things they were willing to not talk about, they're willing to talk about now. Do you sense that?
I do, and I think that's absolutely true. That, with casting couches before, people heard about it, but never really did much about it, and people didn't complain, but I do think that there has been a sea change in terms of, social mores and in terms of people standing up and speaking out over the last decade or two. And I think this was, this was a situation where you have this incredibly powerful man, and, all of a sudden this stuff is coming out. It's not surprising, given the social mores right now, that, people are standing up for themselves much more than they did before. And that doesn't surprise me.
I want to talk about something a little more positive. Tell me about Objectified. Where did this? I watched it during the campaign when you interviewed Donald Trump. You went to his to Trump Tower. Explain the conceit of the show, where the idea came from, Harvey.
Well, the idea came. I was in a meeting with one of my camera guys who was pitching me a show, and I wasn't crazy about the pitch. And then all of a sudden, my phone rang, and it was a realtor I know. And the realtor was telling me about some celebrity who was listing a house somewhere. And I said, okay, thanks. And he then, just as I was hanging up, he said, hey, you know what? I hear that Steven Spielberg may be listing his house, and I've been there. And he said it's fascinating because he's been at this house in Malibu for like 40 years, and he has everything in his life saved in this house, and you go through it, and it's like you walk through and you see his life. You see the stuff from Jaws and everything else, and I just thought, oh my God, that's the show. The show is telling a life story, but using objects that the person chooses to keep in their life. We divide their life up into 7 chapters, and in each chapter, the person I speak with has to give me an object that they kept that represents that period, and it's a way of getting into that period of their life. And what happens is I think it opens them up much more. Over the weekend, we did, Benjamin Netanyahu aired, and, he was surprising. I mean, he got extremely emotional, started crying when he talked about his brother, but he talked about his brother because he had a book that his brother had written that really meant something to him, and that's the way he started. And it really kind of opened him up. And I think that's the concept of the show, which is that people tend to, reveal more and in a good way about what the experiences that turned them into who they are today, when they're able to kind of kick things off in each chapter, with something that's meaningful to them.
No, it's a great show. Objectified, Sundays on Fox News Channel. Harvey Levin, we thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. And the Laura Ingraham Show will continue in a moment. Laura will be right back.
Forgive me for not being completely wowed by the actress's comments.
Mira Sorvino. Academy Award winner Mira Sorvino.
Who talked about how much she still admired Harvey Weinstein's talents. And, Hitler was good with children and like cats. So
great.
The other stuff that Hitler did, she said it's time that this ended, that this culture ended. Well, the only thing that ended it was this New York Times. The only thing that exposed it was the fact that the New York Times finally had to print it. Don't you want to know why this time? I want to know more about the timing. I understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg, Raymond. I know you just spoke with Harvey Levin as I was doing a Billionaire at the Barricades interview with my friend Mike Gallagher. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that's about to come out. And I think the cover-up could possibly be criminal. I think there are underage women involved who've been raped, who have been sexually abused. I think they were paid off sometimes and other times too afraid to speak out. And I think there was collusion among a lot of these top executives and actors who knew that the actresses were being abused. And then there were actors, apparently, who were also abused. And these are the people who were going to get up at the Oscars and lecture us about Donald Trump? How many of them at the last Oscars? Go back, James. This is where we have to put our thinking caps on. Everybody's got to start thinking. Stop reacting to the daily news and start thinking about how Hollywood lectures us. They lecture us on global warming. They lecture us on Trump. They lecture us on guns. They lectured us after the Billy Bush tape came out, where Trump was joking around with Billy Bush in a gross conversation that I completely criticized at the time as disgusting. I went on Fox and said it was disgusting. But that's a conversation. We have actions, whether they took place in the White House at the hands of Bill Clinton, or whether they took place at a big movie production company during a casting call, or at a film festival in Aspen, Colorado, or at the the Park City Film Festival. What is it called?
Sundance.
Aspen. Oh yeah, I guess called Aspen. Sundance. But if you're powerful and you have money, then you can usually insulate yourself from this stuff, and you can't. And I have to say, I'm going to ask this question to my listeners: how many of you want women, even younger women, to be schooled in and educated in their ability to speak out at the time? Now, I know when you're young, and if you're 16, I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about women. Mm-hmm. I know you want a job, and I know you want to work. And I know you're in industries sometimes that are very competitive, whether it's manufacturing or the military or whatever it is, Hollywood. But if you want to be considered a pro in the workplace and just as strong and confident as men, then anyone comes up to you and asks you to do something like this or says something to you that is that offensive, you must speak out in the moment, at the time, or tell others and take action in the moment, not 20 years later. That doesn't help as much. We want to empower young women and young men to do that. That would be a positive step in the right direction. Don't go away.